I think what we're doing for the most part is we're trying to make just invoke happiness and joy and in lives and stuff. And that's typically all I strive for. Is I don't know that it'll ever flourish into a career or anything like that, but if I can make people laugh and forget their problems for half an hour at a time or something, like, then I'm good.
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life? Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
Like, she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
Today I have a good friend, talented comedian, entertainer, Colin Brown. What's going on, man? How are you?
Yeah, how you doing? Doing good, man. Doing good.
Great. Colin, it's been a while since we last spoke. We hit it off at the Market Brewing Company, where I discovered you were a comedian, part of the lineup of talented comedians, Andrew Packer, Greg Hall, for the headliner that night, a mutual friend of mine, Nima Nas. And, it was really insightful that night. As a filmmaker, videographer, I really wasn't expecting to kind of get a firsthand view on a comedian's world. I've always been fascinated, but I've always seen it from afar, and just speaking with someone like yourself, I really got quite a perspective.
Yeah, it's quite a long road and big learning curve and stuff for me. It's there's a lot goes into it, a lot more than I thought when I first started, for sure.
Awesome. Well, again, through our conversations, I became endlessly fascinated with the role of a comedian and the world of stand-up. And I'd like to know from you, like, how were you first introduced to comedy and why did you decide to pursue it as a passion?
Yeah, so I first got into stand-up. Well, at first I didn't even consider it because a lot of people may not know this, but my only fear is public speaking.
Okay.
Sounds a bit kind of pompous to say, but really don't have any fears other than public speaking. So I never thought it would be something I could ever do. But I grew up watching stand up and Just for Laughs, stuff like that with my dad. So I always loved it, but I never considered myself like the funny guy in the group. So I never thought it'd be something I would do. But I think my parents encouraged me to get into it, and I should. So I started writing comedy, but I didn't really know what I should be doing or talking about and stuff. And then my mom actually signed me up for a Groupon for a writing course, a comedic writing course with Steve Kaplan.
Right.
And he's a really intelligent guy. I took a lot away from that course and started writing really differently and felt like I was getting good material together. And then, but I still didn't know how to get onto a stage. I think a lot of people that want to try stand-up, it's a unique thing with kind of like a teenager trying to find their first job. It's like, how do I get onto a stage the first time and overcome that fear? So I was calling around different comedy clubs like, hey, can I perform here? And it was the same question, like, where have you done comedy before? Who knows you, this and that, right? And it was like, well, no one. And then the answer was always no.
Right.
So then ended up going out for my eldest sister's birthday one night. We were late to a show in Vaughan at the Yuck Yucks there. And because we were late, we had to sit front row, and there was only a couple seats left there. And the entertainer that night, the headliner, was Manolis Zontanos, who's a comedian from Hamilton, turned out to be one of my best friends now and mentor, and really, really funny guy, really nice guy. Anyways, he was performing, and because I sat front row, he was kind of riffing on me a little bit. We were back and forth. And then after the show, he was selling merch by the front door, like a lot of comics do.
Right.
And I went over and talked to him, and he was like, thanks for not being an asshole when I was picking on you and stuff. He was like, the way you look, I didn't know if you'd like come up and hit me in the face or something. I was like, no, I could find it in him. Like, I've been writing stand up and I love this stuff. And he was like, no way. He's like, you got to try it. And I was like, no, I can't. Fear just overcame me. And he encouraged me. He's like, you got to try, because if you get one laugh, you're going to be hooked. And we exchanged numbers, and for about, had to have been like 2 or 3 months back and forth, he like harassed me. He's like, you got to try. When are you coming? And no matter what excuse I made, he stayed on me, and finally convinced me to come up there to Hamilton Yuck Yucks, what was Hamilton Yuck Yucks then, and try it for the first time. Walked on stage, and I was swearing my head off, and I was so nervous, and I kept pacing and just looking at the ground.
Yeah.
I couldn't even look up at the audience. I was so scared.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I did something that I found out later was kind of a bad thing as a comic. Is I ran the light, so I was supposed to do, I think, 5 to 7 minutes. I ran about 12.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and everyone
And
was
how does
kind
that
of like,
work?
yeah.
Do they flash a light to you?
Yeah,
Or
so
like,
there's typically in the back of the room, at a proper comedy club, there will be like a red light hitting the boss. And when that light comes on, it basically means like wrap up your bit and get off. So it's
Right.
And then they'll flash it until you like acknowledge it. So usually, if you really watch a comedian toward the end of their set, you'll see them kind of look up and give
Yeah,
them a
yeah.
nod
And then they get the
amongst
nod, yeah.
themselves. Yeah, and then they keep going. But if you do that and then you continue on too long still, they'll leave the light on solid, which means like get off, right?
That's funny.
And I've actually seen it go so bad as to them turning someone's mic off. And it's
Oh, really? Like the guy's just
Yeah.
oh my god. But is he at least
Yeah.
killing it, or it's just out of
I
respect for the
think
club?
I think sometimes for myself, I find you almost disconnect from your audience at times.
Yeah.
Get off on a tangent.
Yeah.
And you won't realize that maybe you think you're killing it, and sometimes you are, but
Right.
sometimes guys get carried away in what
For
they're
sure.
saying.
Mhm.
And and I've seen them kill a mic, and it's like, man, this guy didn't even realize he's run like 20 minutes.
It's like,
And they're
yeah,
under time constraints for the act, right?
it's like a
you
film
gotta
that's
get off.
overdue, right? Like when you're watching a film and you're just like, it's boring as hell, and it's like 3 hours, and
Yeah.
you're like, hey, is it done? Like wrap it up now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I find comedians as a whole are pretty welcoming and supportive of each other and stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Mhm.
But sometimes in that case, some comics will get really pissed off when someone's running a light, or because maybe they've got 2 or 3 shows in a night and they were planning to finish at this show and make this show
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
later in the evening, or there's a second show coming on, and it's like now you just took up some of your headliner's time or something like that if you were middling. Yeah,
That's what I mean.
really
It's out of
important.
respect for the club at the end of the day, right? And your peers, like your colleagues,
Yeah.
right? Like you guys, and that's what I enjoyed about the marketing brewing company, that venue is.
Yeah.
Again, I've been to a comedy show before, but I was the behind the scenes guy, right?
Mhm.
Nima and his brother, like, asked me to come out, and I got to see, just the like inner workings, like how you guys communicate. With you were so, I'll be honest, in your zone, because I tried to have a little like meet up with each comedian. I'm serious, bro.
Yeah.
Like when I walked in the back room, Nima was already out of it. Like he warned me. He's like, I just don't like talking that much for a show. But you were like, you look like you were reciting lines like an actor, like preparing, like method actor, like getting in his role. And I saw the tats, and I'm just like, I don't even know if this guy wants to talk to me, so I'll just wait till after the show. Back to the whole thing about the image, right? It's like I just didn't know like who this guy was, And then at the end of your bit, obviously I put it together. You're a comedian. That's why I give you props, right? Because I commend you for that, right? Like to go up there, and I realized like you're just as human as me, right? Like it doesn't matter about the image or the exterior. You're going out there and you're pursuing something that's different for you, right? And everyone wants to be supported in that light, right? So again, commend you for that. How did that night go for you, by the way? I know we talked about it, but were you feeling confident? Was that one of your best?
Yeah, I felt good. I wouldn't say it was my best. I mean, I've had rooms where it's just feels almost like the room's just like exploding.
Right.
I even had one night where a table was laughing so hard at literally. I felt like I could just go up there and make fart noises. They would have been falling off the
that's
stairs,
so
right?
jokes.
And and I was like, you know what, you guys are so good. I'm gonna take you with me everywhere I go from now on.
Right.
It was so like it was such an ego boost, but I think that was a good night though. I feel like I did well.
Nice.
But I don't know if it's like what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think straight right now. But I always feel like I'm doing badly, even if I'm not. And I often
very critical.
I've heard this from other comics. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little cynical side of me, I guess.
Right.
Expecting like this much.
Of course.
I've found a lot of the time I can't even hear the laughter in an audience. So
Oh wow.
I'll come off, and my girlfriend will be like sitting in the back of the room, and I'll come off, and everyone's all smiling, laughing, hit me like, "Oh, good job!" This
Yeah.
And I'll walk up to her quietly and be like, "Hey, did anyone laugh?" And she'll be like, "Yeah," like everyone died the whole time, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, so I was funny," because I don't. I don't feel like I
Yeah.
was so nervous and fixated on getting through my material and monitoring my stage presence and making sure I don't slip up and miss portions of my bit and stuff that I don't even really take in what's going on in the
Right.
moment.
Well, I have video evidence of people laughing because I put the, I'm serious. I put the vlog together and I got a snippet of your bit. Yeah. And as a, yeah. So like, I'm excited. Look forward to watching that. I honored all the comedians that night. Obviously it was like Nima's video, but I tried to showcase like everybody in it. And people were definitely laughing. What I admired about your kind of style of comedy, everyone's style is different. I didn't pay too close attention, but the bits that I did pick up, you're a storyteller. And I obviously respect that because I'm a storyteller, a filmmaker. So I like that you lead people into the joke. It's not like a one-hit punch. So you were talking about, your wife, your ex-wife, I mean, and, don't get married, kids, you know what I mean? Like you're kind of just building them up. And it's like, it just felt like an older brother kind of, you know what I mean? Like you were just kind of giving them a little bit of guidance and then you hit them with the punchline, right? You talked about your kids and things like that. So I really liked how you worked into that style. I overheard too, it was actually funny to me. But Nima was like trying to prep you up and say like, you could do some crowd work here if you want, because the audience, and you're like, no, I don't do that shit. So I noticed you don't do crowd work. and I was laughing my head off in my head because I'm like, yo, this guy's like serious. Like this guy's ready to go. Like, you know what I mean? But you know what? No, because
No, I don't do that
even with his hat, right? He's like just talking to you like two different characters, like if you notice, right? Like just two contrasts. But you guys are in the same world. That's what was fascinating. I wanted to bring it back to the whole image aspect because I'll be honest, man, I don't see a lot of people that look like you in comedy. Do you think that works against you in booking gigs, or like have you felt that kind of resistance?
Yeah, for sure. It was like the entirety of stand-up is just like an ego killer. Like I like to say, like I had to let my ego die a long time ago.
Right.
You have to get really comfortable with being uncomfortable to find any form of success in stand-up, I think. And when I first got into it, there's actually another really talented, funny comedian. I think he's living in LA now. I haven't talked to him in a long time. Jason Rouse.
Nice. Okay.
And him and I are really different. He's a very crude, like rude, kind of plays on shock humor and stuff a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But he was in Hamilton. He's friends with all those guys, Manolis, and he came in, really talented comic, normally performs a lot, like the States and stuff. He's done bigger shows and stuff than me. So anytime I meet somebody like that, I always want to know their opinion. Right. So I was on a show with him one night, and I went up, and my usual, I write a little bit differently now, but I have always kind of talked about family and kids and life observation and stuff like that. When I first started, and this was probably my second year into stand-up, I think I was more like nice, I guess.
Okay.
And I guess it was like too nice for the way I look at face value if you don't know me.
Right.
And so I went up and did my set. And when I came off, Jason looked at me and he's like, dude, what the fuck? And I'm like, what? And he goes, well, you look like you're going to go up and tell like our stories about beating the shit out of people. And then you go up and you're like, kids, I love them, huh? Like, and like,
yeah.
And I started laughing. I'm like, I get it. And he's like, you have to take in that these people don't know you.
Yeah.
So when you walk on and they take you at face value, you have to play on that image. And then, if you have enough time, you can win them over to, however you really are.
Show that lighthearted side.
Yeah. But if you're doing 10, 12 minutes, 20 minutes, you don't have a lot of time to,
of course,
get people into. So I started from that conversation to play on my image more. And I started to write more. It's like, okay, I love my kids. I'm a dad. I have an ex-wife, this and that. It's like, what was someone who doesn't know me expect to come out of my mouth at face value when you see this look walking in front of me? Right. So that's when I started writing the stuff about, the like euthanasia joke about like dad and shooting with a shotgun. It's like more like you would expect nasty stuff like that to come out of my mouth. So I try not to write like dirty, but I just write stuff more to my image.
Right.
But
So you're saying this is not necessarily speaking from you. Like this is not who you are really.
no,
Wow.
it's more
Okay.
playing on the way I think people perceive me.
Wow, that's
And
interesting.
yeah, because I found that it's funny too. I actually, not that I believe in all this stuff, but I saw a psychic years and years
Oh,
ago.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Not for anything, but she actually brought up to me without me saying anything. She's
Right.
like, you know, I see you walking on a stage, and she's like, and every time you do it, you split the room. Because she goes, I can't remember exactly what she said to me now. I'm probably butchering this, but she said that some people walk up and they immediately think I'm a fucking asshole because of how I look. And I've actually heard tables say,
Oh,
"This guy's
really?
a fucking dick." Like I've
Oh,
heard like
no.
older, like I remember it really screwed me up one night. I had a show in Toronto, and there was a table of like middle-aged teachers that were having like a fun night out of the comedy
Right,
club.
right.
As soon as I was walking on, I heard some guy lean over to somebody else, like, "This guy's a fucking asshole." And I hadn't even said a word.
Yeah. They were just
"What?"
judging. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
which whatever, I get it. People do
Yeah.
that, but yeah, I really used to split the room because people would be kind of almost like confused at what was coming from me. I think so. Started playing on that more, and I think it's worked better for me.
No, I appreciate you being honest and like transparent about that because I take pride in like being able to see through people. And again, I didn't know you at first glance, but I kind of, as soon as I congratulated you after the end of the show and the way you smiled, I was like, I could just tell you were like a good guy. You know what I mean? Like you weren't
Thanks, man.
just, no, because no, I've dealt with people that have your image and they're assholes. Like they
Yeah,
just don't,
yeah.
they won't give you the time of day. And I realized, no, this guy's like a good hearted. Yeah, he's good hearted. Right. So I like that at the, you know, the bit like playing into your image. You're right. Cause when you went on stage and you were like, you know, so I got married when I was young. Yeah. Do that shit, get that shit out of the way. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like you would say, like, I'm like, yeah, that my brain's clicking. I'm like, he would say something like that to me, right? Because you're a bit older than me, right? So it's like, if we're talking about relationships, you'd be like, yeah, get fucking married. Don't be, or no, don't get married. Don't be stupid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you would be like that older brother, like I was saying, right? Because I have older cousins that, or uncles that talk to me like that, being Italian, right? And they swear as well, right? So that's really cool that you're playing to your strengths, and that's what you should do, right? But then obviously like winning them over with that vulnerability, right? And again, I link it to Dave Chappelle's one of my favorite comedians, right? He's a storyteller. So he gives like this heart pounding story, and then he'll say like a little crass joke at the end, right? So it's like, oh no, that's Dave, right? He's a quirky guy, and then you're like, oh shit, he's deep, right? So you play on those layers, right? That's really cool, man. All right, so Colin, we were speaking about your stand-up comedy routine, your career so far. And I want to know from yourself, are you looking to pursue this like full time? Do you see yourself like a Dave Chappelle, or is this more of a hobby to kind of challenge yourself to overcome those fears of public speaking? How do you see it?
So I never really had an end goal getting into this. I still don't know where I really lie on all that, and it is going to be a bit of a long-winded answer. But when I got into stand-up, and maybe I perceived everything differently than everybody else in my own way, but when I got into stand-up, I thought it'd be like a lot of fun. Parts of it are fun, but hanging out with comedians and stuff like that, I thought it would be like nonstop laughs and really funny and this and that. But they're actually some of like, for the most part, like collectively like depressed kind of people, and really unique different people and stuff. And it's not what I thought it would be when I got into it. And I think a lot of us collectively, I think what I'm trying to get at is we all kind of do it because not necessarily like I'm sad or anything. I think a lot of artists as a whole suffer in some way, and they want to make other people feel good and not suffer. So I think what we're doing for the most part is we're trying to just invoke happiness and joy and in lives and stuff. And that's typically all I strive for. Is I don't know that it'll ever flourish into a career or anything like that, but if I can make people laugh and forget their problems for half an hour at a time or something, like, then I'm good. That's all I've ever really asked of this, is I just want to make people laugh. It's been fun to be able to relate from people like that are, all walks of life, from 19 years old to I've had people like 70 years old at my show tell
That's
me they
amazing.
almost pissed their pants, which is
Yeah.
awesome. And it's like in day-to-day life, I've never felt myself relatable to any of these people. But on a stage, when I come off and it's like, this younger girl tells me I was so funny all the way up to this elderly man, it's like, that's awesome. I never thought we'd have any type of connection, right? So that's all I've kind of ever done with it is I've just looked to entertain and have fun. I have a good career and stuff, I like to think, and my day job sucks up a lot of my time. And I think for me to make the transition of having no day-to-day career and moving into this, I think it would require a lot of things I'm not really able to do
No,
in
for
my
sure.
life.
Yeah.
Like, I got two kids and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I think, I mean, I got a good friend of mine, Shay Durana, who he's one of my best friends. He's making a transition now. He's just moved to New York. He's really killing it and doing well, and I've kind of watched him climb. But to do the things he's doing and the other comics that I know that are finding success and really taking off the way I'd love to, you really got to give it everything. And I can't really do that. Like, you got to have no kids, no commitments. You really have to live for that. So I don't know. I'd love to compare myself to somebody like Tom Segura or Dave Chappelle, like you said, but to get there, I think all of those guys have in common have really given up everything to get to where they are, and I don't see myself doing that, not in any near future.
Yeah,
Anyway.
no, for sure. Again, that's really big of you to kind of like admit that, like you're self-aware, right? Something that I kind of pride myself on is, I don't even pride myself, is just kind of accepted is, like being 27, don't have any kids, don't have a mortgage, things like that. I'm able to kind of go all in on my passion, right? Wherever that kind of takes me, because for me, it's kind of like the end goal, right? Like the dream. But for someone like yourself, yeah, that makes sense, right? You have, kids, you have family, you have dependents, right? And to kind of go into comedy, especially that world, right? As you admitted, right? It's not all, sunshine and rainbows. It's not laughter every minute. There's a lot of like dark times, a lot of grueling times, a lot of catch up and wait. You probably witnessed that as well. And if you didn't have your full-time career, you probably lose your mind, right? So very important that you have that self-awareness. And you know what, man, like there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to be a Dave Chappelle. If you're doing what you're doing and you're killing it, then why not? And you never know if someone in the audience might help you get to that point, right? You got to do at the end of the day what serves you and what serves your family. And I kind of respect that because let's be honest, there are people that if they do have kids or whatever have you, like they'll just go after their passion or their dream, and like they won't be as attentive to their kids. And that's not right, and that's something that I get off of your Instagram page, and we'll talk about more about your socials, that they're a big part of your life, right? And I just can't see you just abandoning that, right? Even your career as well. Like there seems like a lot of camaraderie on site, on your construction site. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So no, that's really cool, man. And that's something I was just curious about, right? Because always wondering where people are taking their passions. But I think as you continue with these comedy routines, like you'll just get better and better, and you'll do more gigs, and you might even surprise yourself, right? And see where it takes you, for sure. So that's really cool, man. Yeah, that's really cool. So getting into social media, right? Social media is an integral asset. A lot of artists across various creative industries use to assert and market their brands, as we've been doing. As a filmmaker and a comedian, it's amazing how active you are, I have to say, man. Because after following, no, I'm serious. Like after following you, I'm just like, oh, this guy might post like a few times, whatever, right? Because again, you have kids, you have a lot going on in your life, and you make it an effort. I'm really proud of you that way. Like you just constantly are making me laugh with these Instagram stories, again feeding into your image. Like a lot of them are just crass and like dark and cynical, but it's amazing. It's hilarious. Like the one about the whole porn thing, like porn damages your brain and cuts to you and you're just like twitching your eye and shit. Like it's hilarious stuff, man. It's hilarious stuff. So yeah, man, I want to know, like, why do you choose to be so active on social media in the first place?
So it may seem the opposite, but I actually have a real deep hate for social media for the most part.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. So I think it's done a world of fucking bad for a lot of things, especially like relationships and stuff. It's just terrible. It's such an ego-driven, smoke and mirrors highlight reel of people's lives. For the most part, I can't stand it. I don't really engage in other people. Like I don't, as much as I go on it to look for things. I don't really pay attention to what anyone's doing or what anyone else is posting or anything.
That's good.
Unless it's people that are within my actual circle in real life, I don't really bother with it much. But I kind of, social media, I kind of use it as a tool to network for stand-up. And I think if I were to say I'm done with stand-up tomorrow, I think I'd delete everything because I really care for it that little. But I started using it as a tool for stand-up, mostly with just Facebook years ago, and it's grown into Instagram and slowly with TikTok. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm going for each day. I know I get endless messages from people saying like, oh, if I don't post for a few days, you'd be surprised how many people message me.
Concerned.
Are you okay? Like where, your posts are like my morning paper because I'm up earlier than most people. I'm up 4:30.
Right. Your job,
almost every day.
100%.
And that too, actually, on that real quick, that really kind of fucks me up for doing stand-up because stand-up's kind of an evening, late night thing.
Yes.
And the first couple of years I did it, I actually went sleepless most of the time.
No.
I was getting an hour or two of sleep if I was lucky, and then a lot of nights no sleep. And it really made me drag ass at work and screwed me up. And I actually got to a point where I was experiencing auditory hallucinations.
Oh, wow.
And I went into my doctor at one point and said, this is what's going on. I feel like shit all the time. And the first question, I probably looked like a bag of shit walking in there.
Shit.
He was like, how much sleep are you getting? And I was like, next to none. And we had a deep, long talk about what I was doing at the time in my life. And he was kind of like, you're doing 4, 5, 6 shows a night. Because back then I thought you had to grind in order to get ahead. And so I thought it was just like comedy by attrition, like that was the only way to get better. And so I wasn't sleeping. I was doing as many shows as I could, and then I was working my ass off during the day and crazy hours. And he basically bluntly told me, like, if you keep this up, you're probably going to wind up killing yourself. And I was like, fuck. No. So I really had to take a step back. But anyway, I'm getting away from myself. But
no, but it's insightful.
Yeah, so so back then I was using Facebook and stuff to network for stand-up because it really does come down to who you know, who's seen you perform, people vouching for you and stuff like that to get booked on bigger, better shows and stuff. And and then I think it just became habitual, and much like stand-up where I just like to put a smile on people's faces, I try to do somewhat of that online as well because I get up early, like I said. So first thing I do, I comb the internet for bullshit memes and stuff like that, and I put stuff up. And then fun things. I really like to live life and enjoy things with my kids, so I like to show that stuff and encourage people to get away from the mundane and really go.
Yeah. You're an outdoors guy.
I love just things that get your heart pumping. Right?
Yeah.
So I try to encourage people by showing them myself. I've always tried to lead by example. So, I'm not going to tell you should go outside more, you should do this, but I'd like to show myself skydiving and jumping off cliffs and doing all the crazy shit that I do in hopes that you'll be like, hey, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I'll find that even like this last weekend when I was wakeboarding, I'm showing people that I'm out wakeboarding, and next thing you know, people are like, oh man, like that was fun. I should go do that. So it's just to try to get people moving. But I think I post for a few things. So I either want to make you think, challenge you in a way out of the norm, to make you laugh, or in all honesty, just to piss you off because I think it's funny. I like to get people worked up.
Get people rattled.
Like sensitive pussy people. Like I'm offended, you're offended. Like, I love that shit. So that's why I'll put up the stuff that's blatantly like a slap in the face sometimes. And I think that's what actually got my last Instagram account banned.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. What happened there?
I don't know entirely. I kept getting endless community standard violations. I think I might have had like a troll on there, or maybe like a shitty pissed off ex with a different account I didn't have blocked or something.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but,
Anything's possible in this age.
yeah. But it was like, I was constantly getting shit for stuff I would put up like on Six Buzz. Like they would post stuff about Trudeau and I'd talk shit and I'd
Oh, okay, yeah. It was probably getting too political.
Yeah, not that I was trying to be political.
Not that you were trying, but yeah.
I'm just the type of guy, like, just leave me the fuck alone. I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Well, we're not bothering each other. Just let me live my life. Like
you're talking about the pandemic, like the lockdowns and
the pandemic stuff. Yeah, it really I think I was getting in a lot of shit for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Encouraging people, like, because I remember there was a post I got in trouble for where, whether or not it was true at the time, there was a post that came up that police were stopping people and asking where you're going.
Yeah,
like that.
I messed up my shoot once. Yeah,
to try and inhibit movement. And I put up a post saying, I'm pretty sure if you just tell them I'm on the way to fuck your bitch,
my God.
Laugh really hard and let you go. And like all these people like took it seriously, and I got the shit for that. It's like it's blatant satire. There's no way, like who in their right mind will go out and say that to a cop's face?
To a state trooper, right? They'll fucking they'll shoot you, especially in the States. They'll shoot you in the eyes.
But just stuff like that. So I got pulled down. I still don't understand entirely why, but that got pulled down. I almost got banned from TikTok for bullying and stuff, which I found.
You were bullying? Like, weren't you?
I wasn't. I kind of whatever. It's whatever pops into my twisted head.
But were you like doing duets?
No, so I had a video of a guy. So in the train conducting, like the train community, conductors and stuff, they have these people what they call foamers. You ever heard this term?
No, I know.
So a foamer,
foamer,
not to poke fun, but to poke fun. It's typically people that are like obsessed with trains.
Oh, okay.
And people, so they call them foamers because there's people that will stand literally at like a train platform and watch trains come by and like lose their mind.
Oh, you're saying like really obsessed? Okay,
yeah, like really obsessed. So they make fun of them and call them foamers, and because they're like foaming at the mouth of the side of the train, right? And unfortunately, in that community, I think there's a lot of people that probably have underlying issues like autism or something.
Yeah,
like
for
that,
sure.
There must lead to that obsession. And so playing on that as a blatant joke, there was a worker by this train, this crossing by one of my job sites, that was watching a train go by, I think for safety reasons. I recorded him, didn't know I was recording him, don't see his face, nothing. And I made like a voiceover joke poking fun at foamers, being like, oh yeah, there's a fucking blah, blah, blah train or whatever. And then I put up a post saying, oh, this guy stood here all day just to watch this train go by and stuff. But in all reality, it was a worker doing his job. But I played on it like it was a foamer. Well, fuck, I couldn't believe, I got like 20,000 comments of backlash.
Really, like no joke, like 20,000, like something crazy.
Like in like an hour, people are like, "You're
no,
like my cousin or my brother or whatever is
holy shit,
you're harping on," and it's like much like stand up, like these are like bits. This was something, it's not like I saw a grown autistic man obsessed over a train and then poked fun at him. It was just I played on the idea of it, right? But yeah, I almost got banned from TikTok for that. And other ones I've made similar that I guess could have been perceived as like insensitive. It's just amazing. It's such a fine line to walk down now.
Oh, 100%.
You can poke fun at, you can say, and then other things, people lose their minds, right? Like I had I can't remember if I said it, I talked about it the night I was there at the show you were at. Where I had that joke, like I was saying earlier, about euthanizing my dad.
I think you mentioned something along those lines.
Yeah, so I think I did that bit, but did I talk about how I got banned from a club for that one?
Right. Wait, sorry. Did you ask me something?
did I talk about getting banned from a club?
No, I didn't pay attention too closely. I was running. I was in and out.
Yeah.
I was in the back.
Yeah,
and
you're
also,
busy as
yeah.
fuck, yeah.
But what was that about?
So I have this bit about euthanizing my father. It's just a bit with like a sawed-off shotgun on his 60th birthday, and it's kind of a joke. It's actually about him and his friend actually initially made the joke bet with each other that they're gonna euthanize each other so they don't see old age.
Right.
And I took that as I'm gonna do it. And excuse me. So I did that bit one night at a show in Newmarket. It was like an outdoor patio show, and there were two elderly women sitting like front row, and I could tell they fucking hated me. Like as soon as I walked on, just because of my tattoos, they were like, "Fuck this guy," and anything I said or could have said, it didn't matter. They hated me, and that happens sometimes. It's fine,
Right.
but I'm not for everybody. Not
Can't win them all.
Yeah, fuck them. So you're gonna be dead soon anyway. It's fine. But
the jokes are coming back. The jokes are coming back. See, I talk like that too. It's crazy, man. Like you could be very dark, but it's the reality. Like that's how people think, right?
Yeah. So I did that bit that night, and those women were really upset, and then I could see they were upset, and I thought it was hilarious, and because to me, I think it's really funny when someone gets really worked up about something that isn't warranted.
Yeah,
I think it's funny. Like no, by all means have your emotions, but make sure they're well placed. It's just comical when you get butthurt over something stupid, right? So
but you're at a performance. Like at the end of the day, it's entertainment.
You're at a performance.
Like whether this guy's psycho or not, like I think you can lean more towards the idea that I think he's there just to get something out of you, right? Like he's just talking shit. That's what Joe Rogan said.
So I basically told these women that the reason they're so upset is because they're overdue. And
that'll hit them. Yeah, that'll hit them.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of centered them out, and the booker came up to me after the show and was like, you can never perform here again because those women said they'll never go to another show and they've never been so offended and everything. And I just started laughing. I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, it's fine. Whatever. I'll never come here again. Keep your stupid $50 in your wings or whatever. Like, I'm a Canadian comic. I don't care about this. Like, I do this for fun. If you want to make it all serious and get pissed and engage stupidity like that, then whatever, fuck your show. And I think that the best part of that is when someone kind of mistreats you or takes something too seriously and it treats you like shit. Like things always, I was saying that trash sometimes takes itself out because that show ended up getting canceled. And that bar pretty much shut down after that.
I can imagine.
Comes down to the management being fucking useless like that, right?
No, for sure, man. Like you have to, like as a manager too, right? You have to eye talent and you have to know what's appropriate, like for your venue. Like in other words, like if he invited you to that stage, like he needs to accept, your I'm not sure how it works, the logistics, but I can only imagine that they were aware of your style. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Were they aware of like your bit?
Typically bookers will reach out and they've heard of you somewhere, or they've seen clips or something. Like,
but going back to the image too, like when they see you, right? Like if I was a booker, I'd be like, okay, this guy might throw a dark joke. Like, you know what I mean? Like I have to be prepared for that. You know what I mean? Like if I invite like a tubby, like, short guy, whatever, I'd be like, okay, maybe he might not be and if he is, I'll be surprised at him. But you know what I mean? Like you shouldn't judge, but you should also, like, again, like you said, you have to play into the image a bit and be aware. So some people are a bit delusional. For sure, man. Yeah. Well, honestly, like, good on you for taking a stance. Because Andrew Schultz, are you a fan of his comedy style?
Yeah, I love Andrew Schultz.
So that guy says all kinds of shit to the point where even I was like, oh shit, like in the back, because I watched him in Montreal with a buddy live, and the whole infamous comedy tour, right? I don't know if you saw that clip. He basically had a streaming service. A lot of people believe it was Netflix that said, this is way too racy for us. We can't do it. And he said, fuck it, I'll do it myself. And whether the way I look at it for artistry, it's like whether you respect him or not, whether you laugh at his jokes or not, you have to respect the fact that he was true to himself. You know what I mean? Like he didn't sell out like that. That's his comedy. You know what I mean? And there's a way in which you deliver that. Like I'm sure, like when you deliver that line to the elderly, like you're not spewing venom at them. You're talking shit to them. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of just like getting an emotion out of them. And even if you are, like everybody has a different style, you know what I mean? In which they evoke, right? Like Seinfeld, right? He refuses to swear. His jokes are more like, everyday like observations, right? and some people are more crass, right, and more dark, more cynical. What is it, Sam Kinnison? Do you know that comedian? Sam
I've heard
Kinison?
the name. I haven't seen much of his stuff.
Yeah, he was a short-lived comedian, right? Because he, died tragically. But big guy. He would use his weight in a lot of his bits, but also he had a lot of traumatic relationships. I think he had an ex-wife or two or whatever. But he would just always like literally yell like "fuck you, you fucking whores!" And stuff. Like he was just a crazy guy. Now people laughed at it. Eventually, people like he's an acquired taste. Eventually, people got along with it. But yeah, it took him a long time to really capture that audience. So yeah, I think it's just all about committing to what you find funny and entertaining. That's something that I discussed with a lot of comedians after the show, like the venue, Market Brewing Company. You have to also keep in mind like where you're performing too, right? Like if you're performing in a small town, right? Maybe the reception won't be as big as if you're performing in like New York City. Right. It's just different. The way people are like the upbringing, the morals, the values, things like that. Some people like look to each other like, should I laugh at this? Which I find interesting. It's like, if it's funny, it's funny. Right. But no, keep doing your thing, man. Like obviously I don't think you don't strike me as someone that's like going out of your way to like hurt someone. It's just more like you're shooting the shit. You're talking. You're talking shit, man, right? And it's like you should say in your bit, like if you think this is bad, don't end up on what I do for a living. Like I can only imagine on a construction site because my dad works in business, right? So he has buddies at the house. They come to the house, they do stuff, and I'm like, the way these guys talk, holy shit. But it's amazing, right? That's how I grew up. That's why I think I'm just more open, like accepting of the comedy style because I'm used to it, right? But again, if someone that not right has been sheltered from that, who's never sworn in their life, and they hear you, it's like, oh, shit, why? What's happening? What did you say? But that's great, man. That's great. So just bringing it back to social media, I know you've established you hate it. It's detrimental to relationships, and I agree with you. Don't want to get too into it, but yeah, definitely evidence of that affecting in the past. But I want to know, like, for people that are looking to create, get themselves out there, but they're struggling, maybe they're insecure, maybe they're shy, maybe they don't know how to create or what to do. Do you have any advice for them? Anything you can say?
I think so. I've heard different takes from other people, but for me, I do things differently. So I have friends that make a point with writing their comedy to their posts on social media. They actually attribute time every day, like religiously, to sit down and say, I'm going to write and make content.
Okay.
I've never been able to do that. And I found that, what's that stupid saying? It's like, if you try and force a fart, it's probably shit or whatever.
Oh, I've never heard this one. I thought it was if you bring a horse to a pond, you can't force it to drink. You can bring a horse to a pond, you can't force it to drink.
That's probably a better one to use.
As soon as I heard shit, I'm like, what?
But no, I found that when I try to force myself to make comedy or to make content for online and stuff, it's just garbage. But I find that if I wait till I have like an epiphany of, I see something and I'm like, oh, that's funny, or this would be funny with that, and then I put it out, that's better. So I know, for instance, with like TikTok, there's a lot of content creators that even back to my friend Shay Durena, he's got like a massive following, like million. I think he's up to like 8 million followers.
Oh wow!
On TikTok now, which is crazy.
Okay, good for him.
And he has his ways of doing things that work for him, and he has certain times of day he'll post, and he's given me a lot of insight to how he's found his success with it. But for me, I've never found that to be the same. So what works for you may not work for me, because I've tried to do what he does and sat down and been like, okay, at this time I'm going to put up a post every day and stuff, and it's like the posts don't get traction. It doesn't feel authentic to me. It doesn't fit my style of humor, right? It feels forced, and like people are a lot more perceptive than we sometimes give them credit for. Like people can tell even through a screen in the smoke and mirrors that is social media, you can still feel that it's not authentic and it's forced.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, like, so when I try and like duet something I found funny or whatever, and I try to like, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that, but it doesn't feel like that funny. It never is. Like, it'll get no traction, and the thing will flop. And But when I just give it time and I feel inspired and I feel funny and I do something that feels genuinely like that's fucking hilarious to me, and then I put it up, that usually kills. And it's like, so I try to stick to that. I don't try to force anything. I don't feel like posting a lot. I'm not going to post a lot. If I feel like I got a lot of funny shit and I'm on a high, then I'll put all that out there. So I think it comes down to listening to yourself.
Yeah.
As much as there's so much jargon online now about what you should or shouldn't be doing, I think like anything, take it all with a grain of salt. Stick to yourself. You got to find your voice, so to speak. Find your own unique style. Put it out how you think you should. Like TikTok is a funny example because I don't want to keep talking about exes and stuff, but it's kind of funny that I dated a girl that she was very I don't want to harp on someone who can't defend themselves, but let's just say she really enjoyed her own image. Okay.
Right.
And she was like, you should be more active on social media and stuff. And at the time I wasn't. I went, whatever, right? And I didn't even have TikTok, right? I'm like, that's for young people, fuck TikTok.
No, for sure. Yeah.
And you know, and I didn't want to get onto another platform. And anyways, so I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll try it. Maybe I'll try it. And she was like, you're never going to get any traction on there. You're never going to get stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a TikTok just in spite of you. And I bet you I'm going to get more followers than you are faster if we both started accounts today.
No.
And she was like, no way, no way. So I started an account. I put almost no effort into it. And almost immediately, not that I'm at some huge number, I think I have like 12,000 followers, stuff like that now. And I really don't put a lot of effort into it. But it was almost immediately, the numbers were like shooting up.
Well, what were you posting though, out of curiosity? Like,
it was just stuff I found interesting. Like I had an old cottage video of like me and my buddies hammered around a table, and my one buddy's got a tongue like down to here. It's like he's a freak of nature.
Yeah.
And we were all trash, and he was like just like throwing his tongue around slow motion at the table.
Holy shit.
And while my buddy was literally dumping beer on his face, and I was just standing there like trash, like just dancing.
Right.
It was a really stupid short video.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Amazing.
You're just documenting your life.
Yeah. And so I just put up like that and like a video of me riding like stupid fast on my Harley and like a couple other stupid things.
Yeah.
But it got like a shit ton, like hundreds of thousands of views, and like, got me a lot of followers quickly. And I also made a point. I'm like, if I make a TikTok because I hate TikTok, I'm not following anyone. Like I'm not, to this day, I think I maybe follow 30 people that I actually know personally.
Yeah, they actually, yeah.
And I think maybe 5 of those people are just people I found really interesting on TikTok and actually funny and stuff. But other than that, I don't really, it's like I'm never following anyone. And I told her I was going to do this at the time, and she's like, no one's going to follow you. That'll never happen. That's not how TikTok works. And then she had no followers. To this day, I don't think she has any followers.
No one followed her at all?
No, her content. Like,
no, but what I'm saying, wait, hold on. Yeah. So I'm trying to paint this picture in my head. So she was obsessed with her image, TikTok, this platform, because I was gonna say there's a bunch of racy shit. She didn't like get desperate, eh?
No,
wow.
No. It got, I think at the time I was banging up like thousands of fucking followers a day.
Holy shit.
And she got like 100 or something, and then got all mad and like removed it all. It was really funny, actually.
Yeah, I found you now. Yeah, I'll follow you.
Yeah,
that's funny, man. No, that's jokes. Yeah, you got to prove your point, and you killed it.
Yeah. But yeah, for social media, just do your own thing, man. It's all bullshit anyway. I mean,
it is.
If you're not using it as a tool, I think you really got to be honest with yourself with what you're really using it for. Like, what are you trying to accomplish on there?
What are you enjoy? Yeah, who are you trying to impress? Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, for me, I have moments where, like in the height of my anxiety, like way back, because again, I didn't go through a similar situation like you, obsessed with the image, like the ex that you had, which led to the downfall of the relationship, right? Like you can't be with someone that's that, like it was insane, like just every day.
Was so vain.
Sorry?
It's so vain.
No, it's so vain, yeah. And it's like, and then you know, you get older and you start thinking long term, like, is this who I really want to like cultivate life? But my point being is that because you're I was a part of that world, right? Because I hated social media, but because you're with someone that's obsessed with it, I noticed I was becoming like that guy, right? Like I was just always like trying to keep up with the posts and whatever. And then when things went our separate ways, when I broke up, I realized like it's still with me, and I said I got to change this. Like this is not who I am, right? And sometimes I do get sucked into it, but I try to now make it strictly for business. As you've seen, like with my posts, I just really make it as inspirational as possible, right? Because I would get the same thing, like, yo, you should be more active, you should be posting more. Like guys like you, they should be posting here and like that. And I'm like, that's not who I am at my core. Speaking of image, yeah, like people look at me, man. Like obviously I don't look like you, like I'm not as intimidating, but people like girls and guys have told me like, I didn't want to talk to you. You look like unapproachable, or you didn't want to talk to me, whatever. And I'm like, as soon as I start speaking, you're like the nicest guy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, social media does that, right? Like you think I'm this way, but I'm not, and it's like, yeah, you have to like play to your strengths and like just be who you are, like all my stuff that I post, as you've seen with my page, it's all my film stuff, and it's all about me, like, trying to do inspirational videos. It's not like, I don't know. I'm just not that kind of guy where it's like, I just want to always be posting. I'm at the beach, or I'm out with buddies and stuff like that. Right. I see it. I have friends, they do it. That's fine, to each their own. But then you come across those profiles and it's like, that's not me. Like, it's just not artistic. There's nothing creative about it. It's just mundane, And yeah, man, you got to be unique. If that's something that we established today, you got to be unique, and you got to be true to yourself. So I'm happy you have the same mindset. I'm really happy you won that competition. That's wild, man. 12,000. You made her eat her words, man. Holy shit. I'd understand if it was like 200, 300, but 12,000, that's like, yo, don't even talk to me. Crazy, man, crazy. But so as creative individuals, we're always constantly looking to improve our craft. And you made it a point earlier that you're not looking for stand-up to be a full-time career. But I am curious, are you looking to do anything else creative with this venue? Like skits, those guys that you see collaborate in skits, anything like that, that you look to do?
You know what? I think stand up, if anything comes from it, I think it was something that forced me to grow in a way that I never would have, which was in respect to public speaking and stuff, because overcoming what's been my constant and only, really huge fear. There's an old saying that the best things in life are on the other side of your fear. And for me with stand-up, it definitely has been. Some of my best nights of my life have been from stand-up.
That's a nice point, yeah.
And so I think that I don't know where stand-up begins and ends for me, but I think that from stand-up as a stepping stone of growth, I think later in life, I'd love to see myself doing more public speaking, but from a motivational side, to encourage people to do the things that they're afraid of, and pursue the things that they've always felt like maybe they can't. And because to me, something I've noticed, not only in stand-up community, but just the artistic community as a whole, from all performing artists to painters to everything, a lot of people don't believe themselves, and they never really, maybe put their toes in the water a little bit. But so if I can encourage more people to chase those things that, you ever heard someone talk about something they're passionate about and they stop themselves?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I'd really like to do this. I just sound stupid. Never mind.
I can't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's like, dude, no, I'm listening to you. I love this. Right?
Yeah.
And I think if more people could just dive in to that thing that for whatever reason they think other people aren't going to appreciate, I can't imagine how much more good could be brought out to the world. Like, how much more music we're missing out on, how much more humor and comedy, how much more beautiful painting and stuff we would see if people really dove into their fears more. So I think if I could use my experience in stand-up to somehow bridge a gap to motivationally speaking to get people to pursue their passions more in life, I think that's where I'd like to take it and what I'd like to do.
Yeah, to inspire people through your comedy, but also through your journey as a comedian, right? Is to kind of show people like, hey, like, straight off the podcast, you're telling me, My biggest fear, my only fear really is public speaking. And you hit it right on, right? You, instead of shying away from it, you said, what can I do to overcome that? And you did stand-up comedy, which is probably the most terrifying thing you can do. Because again, it's public speaking is, if you think about it in some ways, is easy. Because I was telling Andrew Packer this, you have a speech, you read it, and that's it. People liked it, they liked it, they didn't, but you did it. The difference with comedy, what's more daunting about it is you have to evoke an emotion, which is laughter, right? Happiness, in order for it to be successful. Because if you don't, it's not stand-up comedy, right? That's what I'm saying is like you went for like the highest point. And again, like back to me being a filmmaker, right? I love to tell stories. I love to, convey images through visuals. I love being a creative, right? And growing up, I was very reserved. I was very to myself as an individual. In some instances, it was because of shyness, but for the most part, I just liked solitude. And then I realized, hey, like if I want to get to where I want to be, I got to be collaborative. I got to be social. I got to be out there, right? Even though sometimes it's painful for me, you got to be a bit of an extrovert. I mean, right? Like that night, Market Brewing Company. Like obviously, I was excited. I was in my element. But there were moments where it was like, oh, like, I don't really want to ask these guys for a testimonial. Like, I know they're just going to roll their eyes, but it's like, you know what, screw it. Like, I got to do it. I got to do this for the project. Like this is good. What's going to make the video. And I was grateful enough that I had people still that rejected me and said, no, we're good. I'm like, okay. Some people didn't know what they're doing, but then I realized, you know what, man, I'm sure you realize this. Everybody's just as fearful as you. Like we're all trying to figure it out. Like, if you really take a step back, the people, you going on stage, the people in the audience were just as scared. And I have video evidence.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? Yeah, no, I'm just saying like they were just as nervous, like to be there, not like to be there. It wasn't like a crazy scared event. But what I mean is like, they're just human beings. You know what I mean? Like they're attending an event, they're looking to have a good laugh. And even if you didn't do well that night, whatever, like, let's see them do let's see them do it better for the last time. So yeah, no, pleasure talking to you, Colin. This was really insightful. And that's why I love doing these podcasts, man, is getting just a human side of the person, right? Instead of just seeing them as the artist, the creative, the comedian, the content creator, you see them as an individual, right? A person. And you've done that today beautifully. So thank you.
No, thanks, man. No, thanks for having me.
Of course. So yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch. You're always welcome back on the podcast. I'm looking forward to more of your bits. On social media. Hopefully we cross paths again when I do one of my vlogs. Sure. And yeah, man, do you have anything else to say before we leave?
No, nothing. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
Perfect. No worries, Colin. Thank you again for coming on the podcast. Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll talk soon.